the Cybersecurity and Compliance Podcast with Craig Petronella. Learn about the most current IT security threats in ransomware, phishing, business email compromise, cybercrime tactics, cyber heist schemes, social engineering scams, as well as hints and tips from leading professionals to help you prevent hackers from penetrating your network and dropping ransomware or malware payloads. This podcast will arm you with the best info to defend your network against the latest cyber crimes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And now, here's your host, Craig Petronella.
All right. Well, today, welcome, Len Rio. Tell us about yourself, Len.
Thank you, Craig. So, I'm Len Rio, president here at the Ativo. Founded the company about 25 years ago after a career of about 10 or 15 years in manufacturing, mostly in director of finance and like cost accounting manager roles. And I fell in love with systems projects, and in particular, how a company's profitability can be significantly affected by managing information well. My observation is that, especially in the United States, that we do a great job of automating, facilities with conveyors and all kinds of automated equipment, but yet we manage our information flow nowhere near as effectively as our materials flow. It's almost like a stepchild, and unfortunately, with the digital transformation really taking hold and accelerated by the pandemic, and the need to be remote, those kinds of business processes are really holding industry back, and that's just an area that is so easy to remedy. So, Craig, I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about like just a case study to share with you who we work with and how we help them.
Absolutely, please.
Sure. So, at the core, we provide accounting and ERP solutions. ERP being, the logical predecessor to a basic accounting system like QuickBooks. The difference between accounting systems and ERP is that the ERP system ties together all elements of information flow within an organization in one unified system, rather than the traditional islands of automation or silos that live in, Craig's spreadsheet or Len's system, or, it's in QuickBooks, but it hasn't been updated yet, and all of those kinds of problems. ERP systems are typically real-time and can become very, very much real-time through barcode data collection. When any kind of inventory moves, some kind of a scan takes place, much like we see with UPS and FedEx. They know exactly when everything has moved from one hand to the next. So we work with smaller businesses, typically manufacturers and distributors, some service companies who do repairs, installations, that kind of work. And by small, I mean $2 million to $50 million in revenue. Most of those companies are just starting their journey to move from a basic accounting information system to an ERP system. Those are perfect customers for us, especially if it's a manufacturing company, for instance, that's in what I call a complex industry, one that has a lot of compliance requirements. Maybe it's a food manufacturer that has USDA requirements, or a medical device manufacturer that's governed by the FDA and their regulations. Anyone with a high degree of quality management, quality control, and traceability of materials is usually the straw that breaks the camel's back. So in the food industry, the farm to table traceability is incredibly important. It has become much more important. There's been a lot more recalls since 2017, when some more stringent requirements went into place, and the existence of allergens or different kinds of contaminants, like any kind of manufacturing that is guaranteed to be free of any kind of nuts, peanuts, tree nuts of any kind. There's an incredible amount of oversight to make sure that product is truly what it says. So the lot numbers and the batch control through the commodity receipt to the production to the transit to the retail locations, all of that has to be tied together. And the only way to do that is with a warehouse management system, one that can actually make the transactions at every single move, like UPS and FedEx does. So these are the kind of problems that we love to solve, because invariably there's a real business case. There's money to be saved by taking these initiatives, or compliance that will keep the company in business and not be forced to recall every product they possibly ever produced in the last 2 years because you can't prove that it's not otherwise. Or in many cases, revenue enhancement opportunities. A good example of this, a good case study, is we recently finished implementation of SAP Business One with a small pet food manufacturing company. A lot of their product was sold on an e-commerce website, and their production manager had to come in at 4:00 in the morning to key enter all of those orders that were emailed to them, taking about 2.5 hours a day.
Wow.
Out of his time at a very early hour of the morning. That's an incredible waste of talent to have a missing link in terms of the integration of information flow. We all know when we jump on Amazon and we make an order, we immediately get an order acknowledgement. These are the kind of things that are non-negotiable. So these are some of the kinds of things we do. There's all of the basic blocking and tackling, like the accounting and the inventory control. But when it comes to traceability, planning by virtue of a system knowing sales history, as well as open orders, as well as on-hand inventory to generate a material plan, these things save hours. And really help a company optimize inventory levels so that they maximize customer service and eliminate, stock outages that in many cases can stop the presses. So a lot of satisfaction in moving a company from a state of islands of automation to an integrated system to a lot of tools of automation, allowing them to leverage what are best practices, essentially.
Great. Thank you for explaining that and going into that depth and detail. Is it fair to say that you specialize in working with manufacturing companies or physical widgets opposed to digital widgets, or is that incorrect?
That's a very good question. Most of the time when we think of inventory, it's a physical object requiring logistics to move it. But there's really no difference in digital commodities, if you want to think about it that way. We still have to produce them. We still have to store them. Then we still have to deliver them, and we still have to charge for them. So it's kind of the same cycle, except no truck had to back up
Right.
in order to move the product.
Okay. So your software could support that though, right? Is that
Absolutely.
okay, cool. So kind of like you were mentioning Amazon. So, maybe Amazon with their Kindle service, for example, digital books delivery, right? They have the system that it sells the book on the e-commerce site. You buy the book, it delivers the book to their Kindle or their device or their app. So your products tracks that whole journey and helps with the automation. Is that right? Or all of it?
Correct.
Okay.
Because behind the scenes, there's typically a serial number associated with that particular copy that, Greg Petronella purchased versus the one that I purchased. Because I can't hand it to you. The serial numbers wouldn't match. We don't even see that, but it's behind the scenes
Right?
in most cases.
So does your software help the company auto-generate that? Is there an algorithm, or do they need another component to do that piece of it if they don't have that?
Well, the interesting thing is that the newer systems, like SAP Business One, are designed to support the Internet of Things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the order entry system within the ERP would automate and trigger the request to the digital automation device that
Right.
creates a serial number and makes it available for download to you.
Got it.
And then once that's completed, another signal can be sent back to the ERP system saying, this transaction has been completed. Here, record this. Craig is now a customer of ours. And then maybe even some automated marketing can swing into motion and start sending you, customers also ordered this when they ordered when you ordered.
Cool. So you mentioned QuickBooks before. Obviously, QuickBooks is popular, made by Intuit. Accounting level 101, the most basic version. I started on QuickBooks. I still use QuickBooks Online myself. You mentioned a couple of areas where a company might transition to a full ERP system like what you have. I'm also curious to know, a lot of new businesses, especially ramping up after COVID, for example, are adopting things like Shopify. So how does your system, like if they're on Shopify, do they move to your system, or do they keep Shopify and also use your? How does that work?
Yeah. So the ERP systems in general, including SAP, don't try to do everything. Okay. They recognize that Shopify and WooCommerce and Magento and all the other great shopping cart platforms do a wonderful job of what they do. Same thing with shipping, certain CRM systems, and so forth. So the logical thing to do is create a native integration, so that, like for example, with Shopify, customer data can be exchanged between the two systems, item information, inventory availability, pricing schemes, all of that, so that when an order is entered, everything is passed over in real time to the ERP system. So that's how SAP has handled it, is through their, they have an intercompany and integration hub, as they call it, that connects to many, many popular kinds of things like e-commerce.
Gotcha. So does your company resell the SAP One product, or is it in replacement of that product?
No, we are resellers for SAP. Gotcha. And in particular, their SAP Business One product, along with a couple of other products that they work with, plus a number of other common, I'll call them third-party add-ons that customers often request, like I said, shipping systems and such, so that we can deliver what we refer to as a TiVo all-in-one, which is powered by SAP Business One, but includes any other software application that's required, the integration thereof, the implementation and training for it. And we do that all as at a subscription price, very low cost. People think that ERP is pretty expensive, but just a 10-user system of SAP Business One costs less than $1,500 a month. And the truth is, comparing that $18,000 a year to the whatever you're going to pay for QuickBooks plus the add-ons that you might need, there's a very, very high return on investment from the automation of tasks that are now eliminated because, well, they're automated within the system. We don't have to do another Excel spreadsheet, and we don't have to re-enter this. So it replaces a lot of manual processes.
Okay. So streamlining that double data entry is what you're. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Exactly. We do it with and Craig, just to it turns out after doing this for 20 plus years, I recognize that when our customers really depend on us to provide the kind of technology leadership that is required. I mean, it just changes so fast, even we have difficulty keeping up. And some of those customers have been around for 20 years. And so with the advent of subscription pricing and then providing just a fixed, affordable implementation fee, if we invest a little bit in that company as we're doing that implementation and then earning a little bit every month, keeping in touch with the customer, the long-term value of that customer is much higher than it used to be when you had to buy ERP software as a great big capital project up front, a big time and materials implementation. So the customer benefits, we benefit. It's just a win-win situation with the way software is being sold and our mindset of customer success now. So
Awesome.
I'm enjoying our work a lot better. I don't have to worry about we got to close that next deal to make payroll this month, or it's like that's off the table now.
That's great. So is it accurate to say that your team helps create this single pane of glass for financials and ERP? So you have an implementation team that helps connect things together, maybe via API or native integration, because like you said, maybe they're using Shopify or these other technologies or software as a service solutions like a CRM, and you help kind of connect it all together from a financial perspective, if there's financials to be gained from there or taken from those systems, and streamlining workflows and eliminating double data entry or manual labor. Is that fair?
Very well said. And when we start an implementation with a new customer, we'll do a thorough assessment of all of their business processes. In each functional area of the business, there's 20 to 25 questions that we have to ask and whatever else they might come up with to find out how they're doing whatever it is they're doing, what issues arise as a result of that process. And then we essentially brainstorm with them to come up with the process improvement initiative. Well, after 500 or 600 questions about how a business is operating, chances are we've got about 150 to 150 plus process improvement initiatives, all with some urgency and priority. So our go live milestone, our first milestone in the project, usually has maybe a third of those included. The reason is, the customer usually has to produce product and ship stuff to make
Sure.
payroll, and the other thing is it's just too much technology to assimilate all at once. So there's always a phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5. By that time, new business requirements come down the pike, and we're just reprioritizing and moving along a path of continuous improvement.
And I bet in this process, in working with a lot of folks over the past 20 years, you probably have a nice portfolio and library of common solutions that maybe can adapt and, be customized for new customers.
Oh, sure. There's in your staff meetings, you'll hear a lot of that. Hey, just like we did for customer A,
Right.
what we need to do for customer B is something similar, except and yeah, I mean, we've got a pretty seasoned team of about 20 individuals, very, very smart people, and it's really fun to be working around them to do the problem solving and make a big difference.
That's awesome. So I could see you as a great accelerator and catalyst to help a business improve, well, first assess what they have and then improve their processes and workflow, eliminate as much labor as possible, manual entry, automate as much as possible, and just make kind of more of the goal being a much better, well-oiled machine.
Precisely. We are enablers, business enablers, if you want to think about it that way. Yeah, I mean, there's one customer I'm thinking of right now that we started working with in 2014, and they had 25 users. We're now skimming past 340 users.
Wow.
In 3 different countries, 5 different countries, excuse me.
That's awesome.
So,
congrats.
Yeah, they keep us hopping.
That's awesome. So, anything else that people that are kind of like you said before, in the QuickBooks world or in Peachtree or in a traditional accounting system, what are some questions that you would kind of ask them so that they know, okay, this is the right next step for me. This is when I should plan this and make this transition.
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, anybody that starts, skipping by $2-3 million a year in revenue needs to start thinking about an ERP system. But the ones that have some unique requirements, such as all of a sudden they're doing business in multiple countries and they need to deal with multiple currencies, or they're opening up a second location or sending inventory to some kind of a consignment location, and now we have to keep track of inventory in multiple locations. Or within a given location, the facility is so large that we have to assign bins, and we need to know where we put that stuff. And then certainly when serial numbers and lot and batch numbers come into play, that's usually the time that you've got to hop. Otherwise, you need a duplicate inventory system. It has to be maintained outside of QuickBooks. And it's either going to be in Excel or it's going to be in some expensive add-on that does some synchronization. So that's the time, rather than just saying, oh, what can we add on to QuickBooks? It is not as hard to get into an ERP system as it used to be. It's very easy to do that. I mean, it's affordable. It's definitely affordable.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a no-brainer. So are there any verticals that are just not a good fit? Like, is there any disqualifiers?
For our company, we do not work with, say, government entities, nonprofits, the kinds of industries that have different accounting kind of requirements, like the 2 that I mentioned. And then there are some verticals, like the garment industry. It might be certain kinds of chemicals that have unique vertical ERP solutions that have been designed for their unique processing. We're more, general manufacturing and wholesale distribution. And that's what most of the most popular ERP solutions will support. but there's nothing wrong with those vertical solutions either. That's the right place for them to be.
Okay, excellent information. Any case studies or anything that you'd like to share with the audience on?
Yeah, one of my favorites is a large seafood importer and distribution company headquartered in Los Angeles. First of all, they were using, they bought a brand new facility and put in a giant freezer at 8,000 pallet positions in it. They're an importer, so they have fish coming in from all over the world, tilapia from Vietnam and crazy places. And you say, wow, that's a long way for a fish to come. But it comes in on the floor of a trailer, and then it immediately gets palletized. And at the time that it's palletized, we're scanning in the information regarding what's on that pallet. So, the item number that carries the description, obviously, the lot number, the expiration date of the product, or the best buy date in food speak, and then the country of origin, because certain retailers will not take tilapia from Vietnam, but they will take it from China. And so all of those factors have to be, tracked within the system. Then with the logic that we built into the warehouse management system, it knows where to put that pallet, where the open spots are in relation to similar kind of product, so that it can get close to its cousins that came in last week.
Oh, nice. So like optimized workflow.
Correct. And then on the way out, because they're shipping nationwide, certain product has to have more shelf life if it's going to go to, say, New England, than if it's just going to go to Torrance, California. So we needed to identify by customer the shelf life and obviously the preference regarding country of origin, in order to recommend what pallets to ship when it came time to pick that product and ship it to them.
Interesting.
So
that's very interesting.
That's a great little completion of that. One of the most difficult things in that project was finding the handheld scanners that would actually operate in a freezer where it was minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Because it's electronic equipment. If it's going in and out of a freezer, if it isn't protected properly, it would, you get condensation inside the scanner, and within a couple of months, a $2,500 scanner would be worthless.
Right.
So, was it Westinghouse? I forget the name of the brand, but one of the brands that we found actually has a heater built into the scanner, so that it it eliminates any condensation buildup.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah,
awesome.
They're fun projects.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That one in particular too, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a pretty large customer. I mean, they need a high degree of automation. And if do we have another minute? Because I can tell you another story.
Yeah, I'd like you to talk more about the automation and the workflows too, because I'm curious on that side of the setup. Like, is that something that you guys do on your side, or can the customer roll their sleeves up too and create automations, or how does that work?
Well, there has to be, members of the customer team, working with our team. So we're handling the technology side of the equation. They're proving out and doing the system testing.
I got you.
The process flow that has been designed makes sense, and all the data is right in order to support it. But the second project involving scanning had to do with all of the grocery store fulfillment that is typically done by the carton. So a grocery store order might have required 2 cartons of salmon, 3 cartons of Alaskan king crab, a pallet of something that's going on special. And so they wind up with 6, 7 pallets of product. And they were working from paper-based pick tickets, sometimes 3 and 4 pages. And when picking that product, they were actually writing the lot number and the expiration date with gloves on, mind you, and the country of origin. And that paperwork was being rushed into the office where there were 3 accounting clerks actually keying in all of the, the quantity they found and the lot number and the this and the that. And because it's handwriting, and you're dealing with warehouse folks, these probably don't have the best penmanship in the world, and they have gloves on. Sometimes the lot number wasn't there, and so because the truck is now waiting and it's running, they just do an inventory adjustment to bring on that 10 cases of salmon with that erroneous lot number and ship it, because they had to have paperwork to go with the truck.
Right.
The next day, someone would have to come in and figure out, well, what lot number do they really want to do? Undo that 10 cases that they put into inventory and then basically issue out the right one. So we've eliminated 2 out of 3 order entry clerks with scanners, because they're just scanning the product onto the pallet. So they're picking faster. They eliminated all those errors. It just was a phenomenal process improvement.
That's awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Len. I appreciate it. Is there anything else that you'd like to go over? This has been really cool.
No, just keep us in mind. When you see a customer that has a lot of paper in their offices, or they have, the typical 42 spreadsheets, it's time for us to have a conversation and see if there's a business case and move them to help them make their digital transformation.
Awesome. So how do they reach you? How do they contact you?
Well, there's always our website, ativoconsulting.com, or just by emailing me, len@ativoconsulting.com. You might see us on LinkedIn quite a bit, or on Facebook. But anyone in Provisors probably knows who I am. So of any of you who know some really fine folks like Craig, they can also refer you as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Len. I really appreciate it. This has been cool.
Yeah, Craig, thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Cybersecurity and Compliance Podcast with Craig Petronella. For other episodes and more information, visit petronellatech.com. Also visit our other websites, compliancearmor.com and blockchainsecurity.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for listening, and stay secure.